Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about why I personally feel that the Minion Necromancer in Diablo 4 is quite disappointing. Now, before we begin, it is important for me to mention that this does not change my opinion of the game at all. I greatly enjoyed what I've played of the game so far, and I'm sure there's still plenty more to come, and I'm definitely going to be checking out Season 1. And also, I should mention that even knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have changed a thing about my character selection or build selection from when I began playing the game. Yes, I would do everything exactly the same because I still really enjoyed playing Minion Necromancer in the lead up into Torment difficulty level. And this is the point where you really can see the flaws of, this particular build. Now, some of you might be wondering, okay, Rurikhan, how many hours of the game have you played? Are you sure that you know what you're talking about? And all of that jazz. And it's like, currently my PlayStation, you'll notice that it's over there on the bottom right-hand side. It'll tell you that I've played about 120 hours. One of the things that I've noticed is that this time is actually not very accurate. It seems to be lagging about 20 hours behind, give or take. So it's probably closer to 140, 150 hours played. But that is how much time I've played of the game, and most of that time has been played as a Minion Necromancer. I say most of it because last night I actually started playing a hardcore barbarian, which is something that I was curious of checking out, so that might have been like, 5 hours, give or take, of me playing a barbarian in hardcore. So every other moment has been me playing a Minion Necromancer. And like I said, from 1 to 50, going in World Tier 2 was great. Even in World Tier 3, also felt very good. The second you get to World Tier 4, boom. It just goes completely to crap. Now, let's talk about the build itself, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to be curious because you guys are going to be like, okay, so what are you running so that I can figure out if maybe you're doing something wrong? Because maybe there are other Minion Necromancers out there and you're like, no, this is actually working great for me. But there's a lot more to it than just the build itself. There is a fundamental design philosophy that I feel has some serious issues. So let's start by looking at our Book of the Dead. We are running Reapers with corpse carving. You might be like, why? Yeah, this was not my choice either. The reason I'm doing that, you guys will see why once we get into the abilities, because the fact of the matter is, even though I'm playing a Minion Necromancer, the minions are not what is dealing the most damage. For as much as I would like them to be, they're definitely not what is dealing the most damage. What's dealing the most damage is Corpse Explosion, which is kind of like to be expected, I guess. But anyway, that's what we have on our Skeleton Warriors. We have Skeletal Mages Cold. You guys will see why as well. But Skeletal Mages Cold, in my opinion, are probably the best ones. The only other option that I would consider would probably be Shadow, because there are some things that, you can benefit from using Shadow. It would actually work pretty well with my build using Shadow as well. But I like Cold because you can have the Legendary that also causes them to cast Blizzards and enemies get frozen. It's all good. And for golems, we are using Bone Golem with the option of shedding corpses as well. Now, there are two reasons for using the Bone Golem. It's not just for the corpses. Corpse is obviously one reason. He gets damaged, a corpse gets dropped, I can corpse explode it, good times. But the other main reason is the taunt. Because, good God, surviving as a Necromancer in Torment? You're insane. You're absolutely mad. Because we have no mobility whatsoever. Like, oh, you got caught in any form of CC? You're dead. So the Golem keeps me alive a little bit more with the taunt. So that's the main reason why I'm using the Bone Golem. And for context, I usually try to go for nightmare dungeons that are slightly above my level, but that's not what causes me to reach this conclusion. I know that a lot of people are going to be like, well, you're playing things above your level, blah, 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 blah. We've seen your stream. You're kind of crazy. And it's like, yeah, everybody's doing it with most other builds, and they seem to be doing it just fine somehow, but it's a problem for the Minion Necro. Yeah, sure, whatever. Anyway, in here we have, on the helmet, we have increased skeletal warriors. So we have 2 more skeletal warriors. Like I said, I've put everything into minions with some very few exceptions. In the chest, we have skeletal mages casting, cold damage and all of that. In the hands, we have skeletons gain increased damage while they are alive, which, is one of the things that as a Summoner Necro, you want to keep your skeletons alive, right? And then in the pants, we have a defensive because I need to stay alive. It's the increased armor defensive. I believe most people are running this defensive on pretty much all classes, so whatever. On the feet, we have increased skeletal mages, and then we are now using a two-handed weapon. And in here, you guys are going to be like, wait a minute, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not a Summoner Necromancer skill. Yeah, because guess what? I actually got to a point where I needed to kill things. And I had to not rely on my minions as much as I wanted to. I can assure you, this build is way stronger, and I do mean like by a factor of 10, at least 10 times stronger than my pure summoner build. Okay, it's not even remotely comparable. And still, pay attention, I'm using like maybe 2 or 3 Legos to benefit my Shadow Blight stuff, okay? I'm using maybe 2 or 3 of them. The rest still completely dedicated to minions. But anyways, continuing onwards. This increases my Shadow Blight damage, which is a key skill that we'll talk about in a bit. And then in here, we have Bone Storm. Again, this is so that I actually can deal damage. This, by the way, Bone Storm is the skill that deals the most damage of all, bar none. And then this stretches out the duration of Bone Storm. And then in here, we also, actually, it looks like I have 4 things for Shadow. But like I said, I used to have all Legos dedicated to summoning things, and I had to change because I couldn't progress. The moment I changed the build to be a hybrid of minions and shadow damage, I started clearing stuff way, way faster. It's not even remotely comparable in any conceivable way, okay? So, this is what we're working with, and now if we actually take a look at the build itself, we'll start off here, and you guys will be like, oh, you didn't even put a third point into your generator? No, because I don't actually need to use a generator in this build. I don't need to generate. I usually generate by blowing up corpses, and I get plenty of essence to do whatever I want. Now, when it comes to core skills, I'm using Blight because it increases the damage that me and the minions deal on anything that's affected by Blight by 15%. We got Hued Flesh to generate as many corpses as possible. We have Corpse Explosion, which is leveled up to the nth degree because, again, we had to. There was no other choice. There was nothing I could have done here but go the Corpse Explosion route. And then we have Blighted Corpse Explosion, which is going to transform the damage into Shadow. You can see that I'm still putting everything that I can into minion passives right there. We also have Grim Harvest to generate essence from blowing up corpses, and even just like spamming the skeletal mage thing. What was it called? The skeleton priest? Whatever that you get to do once all of your skeletons are up. It also says here, I deal 9% increased damage for 6 seconds after consuming a corpse. We have Decrepify, only this improvement because the rest of it I don't really need. I also have Amplified damage, so whenever I decrepify something, they take more damage. Again, increasing the life and damage of skeletal mages right there, another passive. And then we have some shadow stuff in here. I would have loved to have Corpse Tendrils, but I wasn't able to fit it in because there's a really good Lego for Corpse Tendrils that makes stuff really nice. Necrotic Carapace for survival. And then in here, we got Golem Mastery, and we maxed out all of the all of the stuff for minions. Again, even the Golem gets like maxed out stats, which I didn't really need to do that. We have Bone Storm, and then finally on our key, these are called key passives, I believe. Yeah, key passives, which drive vital synergies through unique interactions. We have the Shadow Blight. And then just very quickly to give you an idea of Paragon, this is our base Paragon. Then we went into Cult Leader, which Cult Leader is where you can get the most benefit from minions. Like if you see here on Cult Leader, we took the Legendary passive, and then we took the thing that increases Skeletal Mages damage, and then we took the thing that increases Skeleton Warriors damage, and then we took something that gives them a little bit of defense, damage reduction for minions, as well as increase minion damage. We have Dead Razor at level 15, which took forever to level up this goddamn thing, which just, again, increases minion damage. So basically, I'm taking everything that I can to increase minion damage, and then recently, I was just like, well, minion damage kind of blows, my minions kind of blow, so I went ahead and I grabbed the Witherboard, which increases shadow damage, and this, like, to give you an idea, and this, again, I'm not the most professional Diablo 4 player, but to give you an idea, this node here, Wither, has increased my damage more than this whole goddamn Paragon board. The whole Cult Leader thing. My perception, from my experience of playing the game for 140 hours, this one node has contributed more to my damage than this whole goddamn board. I'm not saying that I'm 100% correct. I'm saying that's what it felt like. And that is, it just sucks. You know, it just sucks because you're like, oh man, I want to play a Minion Necromancer. And then you're just like, oh, Minion Necromancers kind of suck. Now, I still have fun with this build. I want to make that perfectly clear. I still greatly enjoy that I've played it. It just kind of sucks that you get to end game and the build is kind of bad. And you might be like, well, Rurikhan, everybody told you at the beginning when you were starting on your stream and all of that, that particular build was going to be bad. And it's like, sure. But here's the way that I look at things. And I think that this is the way most people should look at things because this I find to be extremely important. You look at your key passives of every class. And in my opinion, if you put something down on the skill tree that says, hey, look, your key passive is going to be something that is going to tell you at least these builds are going to be viable. It's not like I'm sitting over here with friggin' 5 points into Bone Prison and being like, oh, why is my build not working? Why is my Bone Prison not dealing damage? Right? I'm not doing that. Okay, I'm looking at these key passives, and there's a specific key passive here that is Callan's Edict. And it says, after you've not taken damage in the last 3 seconds, your minions gain 15% attack speed, and if you have at least 7 minions, this bonus is doubled. So what does this particular skill tell me? Well, clearly Blizzard wants Minion Necromancer to be a viable build. And you'll notice that like, oh, but you're using this Shadow Blight thing. Well, yes. I wonder why. So actually pay attention to what this skill says. After you've not taken damage in the last 3 seconds. After you have not taken damage in the last 3 seconds. Now, in order for you not to take damage, you're going to need to have a barrier of some kind. Guess what? Necromancers don't get the ability to just generate a barrier. You get Fortify, but Fortify is not a barrier. You still take damage. Even if you're fortified, even if you're max fortified, you still take damage. You just take less damage, but you take damage. And that breaks your key passive for minions. Which doesn't make any sense because it's not... If you're going to have something like this, then at the very least, you need to force the monsters that you are fighting, like the mobs that I'm fighting, to fight my minions before they fight me. Like my minions should have some kind of natural aggro or something, or maybe not like 100% aggro, but let's say at least 80-20, which is not the case. As a matter of fact, by the way, if you happen to encounter the Butcher in a dungeon, bro, Butcher doesn't give a damn about your minions. You'll trample right through them. They don't even body block them. You'll trample right through them straight to you. Hone in on you 100% of the time. Will never even take a shot at your minions. At least that's been my experience so far. Let me know if it's different with you. But fundamentally, I feel like mobs should have a priority towards your minions on like 80% to 20%. So 80% on your minions, 20% on you if you're going to be able to take advantage of this thing. Because particularly when you get to Torment level 4, there's so much AoE and so much cluster crap happening on screen at any given time that keeping this thing up is going to be tremendously challenging. You're going to be like, well, it's about positioning and blah, blah, blah. Maybe you send your minions forward and then you hang back. And it's like, okay, one of the things that increases the most damage on my minions is this skill, Hellbent Commander. Your minions deal 30% increased damage while you are close to them. So if you want your minions to deal damage, you need to be close to them because that is going to increase their damage by 30%. But then, if you want your minions to gain 30% attack speed, it turns out you need to be far away from them in order to not get hit. And even being far away from them is not going to prevent you from taking damage. There are so many things that happen in dungeons and nightmare dungeons and so on and so forth that are going to make sure that you're going to get damaged. And particularly during boss fights, you're always going to be getting damaged by something, whether it's a rogue AoE that hits you, or and when I say rogue, I mean just like a random AoE that a boss threw out that hits you, whether it's the fact that there's poison in the ground and now you're poisoned and you're taking damage. So this right here is a very unreliable thing. And not to mention that when you look at it, right, Griparian has even said in one of his videos, which we're going to be talking about in a second, that a lot of the nodes that you have in Paragon and whatnot that increase, not just nodes, but even like glyphs that increase like attack speed, he's not even sure that these things are working. at all. And it's like, look, I'm not as good as Kriparin in these games, but if Kriparin himself is looking at these paragon trees and he's experimenting with them because he's been playing Necro, and he's like, I'm not even sure these things are working. I'm just like, oh, that's good to know. It's not like I've invested almost all of my paragon points into this paragon board right here. No, I'm fine. No, don't worry about it. So, that's just a couple of things. And then the other thing is, a lot of people will argue, well, Rurikhan, in the first beta, Necromancer was overpowered. The minions were way too strong. I'm not saying that they weren't. Like, nothing was killing minions in the first Diablo 4 beta. But then in the second beta, they nerfed them so much that you couldn't even raise minions in fast enough as they were dying. They were dying so fast, you couldn't even get them back up in sufficient time. And so Blizzard says our philosophy is that we feel like you should have to maintain your army, so you should have to continuously resummon your army. And to that I say, that is really dumb. And you want to know why? Because there's already an ability that you have to do to maintain your army even when they're fully rezzed. Even when your army is all up, you still have to continuously press the summon button and use corpses. And some of you guys that maybe don't play Necromancers, you might be wondering, what the hell is Rurikhan talking about? Why would you need to hit the summon button again? And let me show you guys. So if we go to skill assignment, look here. In Book of the Dead, these are your two summoning buttons, for Golem and for Raised Skeletons. So Raised Skeletons, for starters, it begins by summoning all your Skeleton Warriors. Once you reach the cap on that, it'll summon all your Skeletal Mages. And once you reach the cap on that, it will do something else, which it details here on one of these paragraphs. I'll read it for you. Once all of your skeletons have been summoned, Raised Skeleton briefly summons a skeletal priest to empower your minions for 5 seconds, increasing their damage by 20% and healing them for 10% of their maximum life. So just to make things crystal clear, in order for you to really optimize and take full advantage of your minions, this includes the golem, because notice how it just says empowers minions. It doesn't say empowers skeletons. So this right here, supposedly, I don't know, also is supposed to increase the damage of the golem. Now, you guys might be wondering, Rurikhan, how come you don't know? Haven't you tested this? Bro, do you see the amount of numbers that pop on screen when you're playing a Summoner Necromancer? Like, the whole screen just fills with tiny numbers. That's the thing. It's death by 1,000 cuts when it comes to Summoner Necromancer. You're not doing that much individual damage per minion, but all the minions together deal a decent chunk of damage, right? That's the point. But anyway, so you already have a mechanic that I'm supposed to recast summoning a skeleton every 5 seconds. Why are you telling me, oh, your skeletons need to die, so you have to resummon them? Why? I already have to hit this button every 5 seconds. You want me to hit it more? I don't understand. I just really don't understand this logic that people are saying, like, well, the minions have to die from, every so often. It's like, look, I agree with you. If you don't invest a single point into your minions, they should have to die. 100%, 1,000,000%. If you're not, like, for instance, if you're someone who's going through the Necro skill tree and you don't put 3 points into Skeleton Warrior Mastery, increasing their life and damage by 45%, or 3 points into Skeletal Mage Mastery, increasing their life and damage by 60%, or 12 points into increasing their survivability through heals, as well as making sure they can't take more than 30% of their life damage, as well as making sure that they gain attack speed and that they deal more damage. If you haven't invested these points, or if you haven't put almost all of your points into a paragon board dedicated to minions, then I agree. They should be dying all the damn time. But, if you've taken the steps that I've taken, then I would say my minions should be goddamn invincible. My minions should be the goddamn Hulk when it comes to taking damage. Because like I said, every 5 seconds, I already have to press a button to make sure that they're healthy, to make sure that they're dealing additional damage, and therefore them dying the way that I see them dying in Torment, I find that to be completely unacceptable. Not to mention, for the most part, most monsters ignore minions and come straight after me, which then straight up negates the key passive that we have for the minions, which just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, a couple of more things. So, I have a couple of videos here. I'm not going to be playing these videos. These are mostly just to tell you guys a couple of things. So the first one that I wanted to bring up is the crypt video. I would recommend people check it out. I'm probably going to be linking these in the description section down below in case you guys are curious, because I think that these videos are very important. This is the one where, like I said, Crypt goes through and he talks about how a lot of the nodes don't work. Interestingly enough, Crypt says that he's still pretty satisfied with the minions. To me, one of the biggest things about minions as well, and this is something that I was almost forgetting to talk about while we're on the subject, is that minions need a focus target function. I need to be able to order my minions go like, kill this thing. Can't do that. They just attack random nonsense. There's a lock-on functionality in consoles. I don't know how it works on PC. I think there might be a lock-on PC as well, where you get to like lock on to a monster and be like, this is the monster that I'm targeting now in the middle of this mess that is on the screen, and you can kind of like focus your damage there. Your minions don't care that you've targeted this monster. Nothing that you press is going to force them to attack this monster. They're going to continue to attack random things on screen, which also makes it really dumb, because a lot of times you'll have like these monsters that will have these domes, these shielded domes, and your minions, like your skeletal mages, they're worthless. They can't do anything because they'll just stay outside the dome. You have to like move past the dome, so hopefully your skeletons will move inside the dome, then you run back, and then you can... Why not just have go here, kill this thing, do this? Like something super simple. It can even be the same button that we're using right now to summon them and rebuff them. Can be the exact same button. I'll lock on, press that button, boom. They attack that thing until it's dead. Please, let me have that. Please. It's just like, they're my minions. I need to be able to focus their damage. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, this is Crypt's video on it. And then we have another thing, which is like, you guys are listening to me complain about, Rurikhan complaining about necromancers and all of this stuff, right? And one of the things that was said here in the video that DM made, which is another Diablo content creator, I'll make sure to link this one in the description as well, is that he started playing the Necromancer, he played with the minions, he thought they kind of sucked, so he just sacrificed them all very early on, and then he started playing Blood Necromancer. Okay, and before you say anything, let me show you guys something else, right? If we go back to the gameplay here, I want you to notice that if we go to the Necromancer's skill tree, right? Remember the thing that I said, key passives, these should be things that are like build defining. So at the very least, these 4 things should be viable builds. These 4 things should be viable builds. So you have the minion thing, which we already talked about. It's pretty lame. You have the shadow thing, which is actually pretty good. And, you know, it actually works decently well in minion builds, even though the reality is a majority of your damage is going to be coming from Corpse Explosion with Blighted Corpse, not really your minions. Then you have one that is Rathma's Vigor. Increase your maximum life by 10%, and after being healthy for 15 seconds, your next blood skill overpowers. So this should mean, Blood Necromancer should also be a viable build. I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it isn't. This is just something to keep in mind. Then you have Ossified Essence. Your bone skills deal 1% increased damage for each point of essence you have, about 50 upon cast. So right now it is my understanding that the most powerful Necromancer is a Bone Necromancer using Bone Spear. Could be wrong there, but that seems to be like the overall conclusion that the community is inching towards. And DM in this video basically stated like, so I sacrificed all the minions because I didn't like playing minions, which is fine. I think those 2 playstyles should be viable. You want to have minions? Sure, go for it. You don't want to have minions? Sure, sacrifice all of them, gain passive bonuses, do something else. And he was playing Blood, and he was loving Blood. He thought that Blood was really fun. And then he swapped the Bone for the Bone Spear thing, and he was like, because Bone Spear just like shredded everything and, you know, wasn't even remotely comparable to Blood. Which is interesting because he was also mentioning the point that like, but, you know, I like playing Blood more, but Bone was just so much more efficient, right? And this is one of those situations where I've always said Blizzard is terrible at balancing classes in any game that they make. They're terrible. I've always said this has always been a problem for me in World of Warcraft. The class balancing there has always been complete, absolute garbage. I don't know what it's like in Overwatch these days, but back in the day, there were also problems there. And, you know, there are also problems in Heroes of the Storm. There's been problems in Diablo for ages. There's always problems when it comes to Blizzard and balancing classes. And to this, a lot of you guys are saying, well, Rurikhan, if they just straight up buff Necromancer minions, they're just going to be too powerful. They're going to become completely overpowered. And to that, what I have to say is like, okay, well, let's check out this video over here and see what this dude playing Druid thinks about that. So this right here, for those of you that are not aware, is a Shava the Pestilent. This is a world boss. It is designed to be tackled by 12 players. This person is playing hardcore. He is level 100, and he is playing as a druid. And the boss is also level 100.
God, I can't auto attack at the start. It's not letting me. There it goes. Okay, here we go, boys. Okay, ram time, boys. Ram time, ram time, ram time. Oh no, you see, right?
Oh, wow.
It moves, it moves. Okay, I'm ramping now. I'm ramping, I'm ramping. Huge damage, huge damage, huge damage, huge damage, huge damage, huge damage. Oh!
By the way, this is in World Tier 4, which is the hardest difficulty in the game. And I just want you to pay attention to the fact that he just straight up tanked a double hit from the boss and didn't even blink. Like, look at that. He's like...
Huge damage, huge damage.
Like, you see these two circles? Each of these is usually enough to kill a character.
Damage, huge damage.
He takes two of them, barely even loses any health. I mean, I don't know. I mean, hey.
Huge damage, huge.
I mean,
Huge
yeah.
damage. Oh!
He just basically kills the world boss in 23 seconds. And that's 23 seconds that he didn't even get to do damage all the time. Because, as he said, he couldn't auto-attack at the very beginning. So it's like, if you want to tell me that if they buff my minions, my character will become broken, I'm like, well, I guess this character's fine then.
Oh no, you see, right? It moves, it moves.
This is fine.
Okay, I'm ramping now, I'm ramping,
This is not
I'm
a
ramping.
problem.
Huge damage, huge damage, huge damage, huge damage, huge damage, huge damage. Oh!
I mean, hey, hey, you know, and it's like, look, I don't want my class to do this, but I want my class to at least feel good when I'm playing it, as opposed to like me just constantly feeling like I drew the short end of the stick because I decided to play the most iconic role of the Necromancer, which is the Minion Master. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section down below. Again, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. I think the game is a ton of fun. This does not change my opinion of the game. It's just one of those things that I said since there was going to be a problem since the beginning, which is that Blizzard balancing absolutely sucks, and it doesn't seem like that's going to be changing anytime soon. I'm sure that the build that I just showed you is probably not even the most powerful build that you can make. This is just something random that I saw on my feed. But anyway, that's going to be it. Thank you all very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, hit up the like button. If you did not enjoy the dislike button, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.